Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Rings. This is our Super Bowl edition heading into actual Super Bowl Sunday. What's up, fellas?
What's
What's
happening?
happening, y'all?
All right. So we're 3 days away from Super Bowl 60 now. I can't believe that these 2 weeks have gone so fast. But did you know that in addition to Sam Darnold being the first USC quarterback to start in the Super Bowl, he is the first quarterback from that vaunted 2018 class. If you remember that class that they were so high on, it had Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, and of course, we forget Josh Rosen, wherever he is these days. But think about where Sam Darnold's career was going compared to the list that I just named. He is the first quarterback out of that list to make it to the Super Bowl.
Wait, what?
What you got, big dude?
Uh, this is Super Bowl 60, and there are a lot of firsts that have not happened. We give a lot of talk and commentary to game strategy and who are the main people that we rely on. But one position of all the different MVPs in 59 Super Bowls that has not, any of the five positions on the offensive line have not had an MVP in 59 years.
Wait, what?
That's
right.
crazy, big dude.
25 non-quarterback MVPs, and no offensive lineman has been selected as an MVP to this part. And we have gold jacket people like Jonathan Ogden that also never got an MVP.
Cool. G, what you got for us?
Well, did you all know that there have been, let me see, this was as of 54, no quarterbacks from Ohio State who started a Super Bowl?
Wait, what?
Nah.
Get out of
You know
here.
I want to crack a joke at that, but you're kidding.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
no, we've had quarterback be a backup, but not start.
Oh.
Wow. That is very interesting, especially with the quarterback being so successful. You would think that certainly there's some Ohio State quarterback. So I'm predicting CJ Stroud will get there. Even though it looked bad, I think CJ will fix it.
He's got the best chance right now.
Yep,
Absolutely. All right.
but I think
So
Joe, I'm reading that a Joe Germain who played at Ohio State, but he was a backup.
Joe Germain was on a team that went to the Super Bowl.
Yep,
Wait,
that's what I'm
what?
reading.
That's wild. That is wild. All right. Well, that concludes our.
Wait, what?
Let's get
That
into
hurt.
some
What's going
news.
on?
That hurt.
So, in sports news, we had a major upset in college hoops last night. It was pretty. It's been pretty quiet lately, but last night, sixth-ranked Gonzaga got upset by Portland in a conference game, 87-80, and this was the second loss for the Zags this season. And it snapped, believe this or not, guys, a 141 game winning streak against losing teams. So that means
Wow.
that they typically handle their business. So there was a little bit of a letdown last night. But as I mentioned in our episode yesterday, when we were talking about conference games as it relates to, or division games as it relates to football, that same kind of applies in college hoops. Sometimes you see each other so much, eventually you're going to catch each other every once in a while. So congrats to Portland on their upset. The NBA wheeling and dealing continues. Probably the biggest deal that's happened, and this happened late last night after we actually concluded our broadcast. Golden State traded Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield to Atlanta for Kristaps Porzingis, which I found interesting. I think that really helps Golden State. Golden State makes some great deals. I like Kristaps Porzingis if he can stay healthy.
Golden State leadership team is like the best.
Absolutely. In other news, the NCAA, here we go with these college football guys trying to get 10 years again. NCAA has denied Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss's 6-year eligibility waiver that the school had put in on his behalf. His fight to play college football in 2026 will now be directed to the state court in Mississippi.
Do they say what the basis is?
They didn't say what their basis of at least I didn't see what their basis of denial was, but he was his premise was his partial year at Ferris State.
A partial year.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Big Duel? Start with you. What are your thoughts on Trinidad Chambliss for looking for this 6th year here?
Well, hey, Trinidad, how about you go to the league? You're that good? Well, and as G talked about last night, go to the other league where you can get a Grey Cup and get a salary. You have to go. I mean, look, I think what we're understanding is people are staying because they don't want to wait for their next contract. Their first contract, many of them, the players that are in his situations with NIL money is way better and a lot more they can get in a rookie contract. So why go, I suppose? But why be 29 years old and go to the NFL and wait when all those times go by? You know, this is a guy that is, I think, good enough to play. He should take his talents somewhere else. That other half a year, to me, that doesn't tell me much about how confident he is in going to the other league and understanding that we know the money is ignorant on the other side. But guess what? If you do well, it's there waiting for you. So just go to the league and get on with your life.
Well, and he's probably gone as far as he's going to go. I mean, you lost your coach and still were able to get to the semis in the CFP. That team's not going to be better next year unless maybe he plans on following Lane Kiffin. We don't know. There's still a lot of movement that can take place in the college landscape. But I would be interested to know what his mindset is. Like, what is his plan if he does get this 6th year? So I'll throw it to you, G. What are your thoughts on this situation?
Without having looked it up, technically, if his partial year met the terms for redshirting and he's not used a red shirt year, then I say, quit tripping, give the man his time. But if that's not the case, I agree with Big Dude. It's like go to Canada, go over to Europe. I want to say there are a few. I think the NFL is trying to expand to Europe. So go somewhere else. Hone your craft, blow up, and come back. But here's the reality, and I think you alluded to this, Big Dude. The rookie contract per year, will it be more than what he will be receiving as a college player? So my thinking is he's trying to maximize as much money as he can while he can, which I do not begrudge anybody doing that. But
Definitely makes sense.
yeah, move on to Calgary, shoot Toronto, go play.
So I was able to pull that up, G, with the question you asked about what the premise was. So it was for his 2nd year at Ferris State where he apparently redshirted, but the NCAA said that he did not have the proper medical documentation showing that he had redshirted.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see where this ends up. But I don't know, some of that stuff seems so cut and dry to me. Like, what does the NCAA allow and what doesn't it allow? I don't see why it gets shot down in one realm and then has to go to another court. I don't really quite understand that, but I do think that's probably the complexity of what we're dealing with right now in college sports. So in baseball, the Detroit Tigers, we're talking about baseball, pitchers and catchers in a minute, y'all. The Detroit Tigers agreed to a 3-year, $15 million deal with former Houston Astros pitcher Framber Valdez. And, Valdez was considered the best left-handed pitcher in the free agent market this year. So that's a big get for them. Remember, they had the Cy Young winner last year that they're hoping to hold on to. So if they have those two going in their starting lineup, look out again for Detroit. And finally, the Winter Olympics opening ceremony is tomorrow evening. Now, none of us are necessarily Winter Olympics junkies. I would say we've never talked about this as long as we've known each other. Do you guys have any favorite events you like to watch? There are a few that I like to watch.
In the Winter Olympics, I do like the sprint skating.
Mm-hmm.
I will watch sprint skating. Sometimes if I happen to catch it, I'll watch slalom, downhill, and I'll watch what is it called when the jump?
Like the ski jump where they
Yeah,
jump on that. I don't know
yeah.
what that's called actually. I do
I'll
not know
watch
what that's
those.
called.
Yeah, I think he's right. The ski jump. I'll watch that.
Hmm.
Um, well, now that we have NHL players, you said NHL players are going to be playing on the hockey team now. I may actually watch that because I mean that's going to probably be some serious blowouts. And I don't know if you all knew this. When I lived in Raleigh, I lived literally up the street from the Hurricane Stadium, and so
Oh, I didn't
sometimes
realize that.
Never
yeah,
knew.
so sometimes I would actually go over there and watch some of the games. So yeah, I can enjoy some high level hockey, that's for sure.
If you've never been, well, G, I know you've been to a hockey game. Steph, if you've never, big dude, if you've never been to a hockey game, incredible in person. Absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. What are your events for the Winter Olympics, big dude?
Uh, you know what I grew to like was the bobsledding. I really like the
Oh yeah.
bobsledding. In fact, when Willie Galt and I think Herschel, I can't remember who else, when all those guys did it, I paid more attention to it then. When they
Mm.
looked at it, which was great. You got all the people who are the explosive athletes that jump into that bobsled. I thought that would be a trend. That I'm surprised that didn't really keep going, unless these folks are the ones from other countries that are the best athletes. I didn't think the best athletes in other sports could make that better. So that's what I was always interested in, the allure of coming around that corner, where they show it real close and they're coming and the bobsled goes up and down, that's one of my favorite. And of course, always, the ice skating I started to appreciate also, just to see more of the politics, the way that the judges and all handle all those other things, especially the couples event. Believe it or not, me and my wife enjoy that together. And then, of course, hockey. Hockey has always been pretty big for me. I don't know, as G said, I don't watch too many whole games, but be more likely that I watch some whole games this time. Now that the NFL will be on break, on Winter Olympic break.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
like everything.
NHL.
I like everything that you guys just mentioned, but I love curling, as weird as it sounds.
Oh,
You know what? It actually is not weird.
Hmm.
A lot of people watch curling. As a matter of fact, Google has curling on their homepage if you go to Google search.
Oh,
no,
really?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, love watching curling. Love watching
Didn't know
curling.
that.
It
All
can be
right.
pretty exciting, man, especially if it's a real tight game.
Hmm. Cool. Well, that
Let's see.
concludes our
Guru,
around the ring.
you probably be sports betting on curling.
I would not be sports betting on curling, though probably a 50-50 proposition there. I don't know what I'm watching and who's favored. So, all right. That's it for around the ring. Now we are going to get into some Super Bowl talk, and hopefully this is a real lively discussion here today. We are now 3 days away from Super Bowl 60, and it's time for us to really dig in and analyze this rematch of Super Bowl 49. Yesterday was the lead up in the pressure. We talked about who we thought had the most pressure on them. Started to get into a little bit of analysis on the most general level about what we thought were some things to look out for. Today is the truth serum episode, everyone. Today we're cutting through all the hot takes. We're giving you the most complete breakdown we can. We're going to try to touch on every aspect of this game. Going to look at the matchups. Obviously, you have the two teams going against each other, but there are a lot of individual matchups out there that will make the difference in this game. And think about what the game scripts might look like for each team, coaching decisions, pressure points. And then, of course, we can't leave you without predicting our winners and putting our names on our picks. So let's begin with a side-by-side comparison of these teams and some of the major statistical categories. And if you look at this just at a glance, they look pretty even, but certainly there's a couple things on there that jump out. Gee, you started to get into some of this yesterday when we started talking about the pressure points, and I thought you made some really good points. You want to continue to expand on some of the points you made yesterday? What stands out to you when you look at these two teams side by side in these major categories? What really jumps out to you, and where do you see some advantages in some areas for either of these teams?
Yeah, I mean, oops, hold on. Yeah, based on the stats that you're showing, um, I really think for me, this is more of they are very similar in terms of defense strength. And I think you kind of see this play out in these particular numbers, which then plays to their specific offense. But when I look at these sacks, and I'll get into the defense in the next in our next segment, but this says pressure to me, the sacks. I see the differential in interceptions. That says pressure. I would not be surprised as that some of those throws were either errant throws or tip, or the DBs were really able to disrupt. So I really believe, based on that Seattle has the greatest strength, particularly with the sacks and the interceptions. In other words, they can bring the greater pressure, I think, long term over the course of a game than the Patriots will, and I think that will be one of the factors for sure.
Absolutely. And you make a good point there. Last rankings had Seattle with the third ranked defense. So one of their big elements or characteristics of them is their pressure. They put a lot of pressure on teams to get rid of that ball. And one of the things that they really look at is they want to get you in that third and distance situation. So if, for them defensively, and we'll dig more into that later, certainly they're going to need to stop that run. But big dude, looking at just this snapshot, what jumps out for you here, and what you thought about in terms of analyzing this game. What here jumps out and kind of takes you in a certain direction as you begin to break down this game?
Well, I think a couple of things. The first thing would be the sacks. 47 sacks is quite a bit of sacks, and it's going to be interesting on the Patriots side what they do to help their left tackle. And our left tackle is the Patriots left tackle is Will Campbell. He's a left tackle, 4th overall pick, but we'll see. What are they going to do to help Will Campbell? Because I think probably those 12 interceptions will come more from any interceptions that will come more from, I think, that the sacks. So if you look at let's just see, I don't see it. I thought I saw interceptions on there.
It
but
is
Towards
okay.
the
it's the
bottom.
next to last. Yeah, next to last.
Okay. So if you look at, I see it. So if you look at the interception difference, I'm sure that has to do with the pressure. Now, in this game, and that's what's going to be interesting, to give Will Campbell help, you're going to have to take some of their really good tight ends out of the passing game, or they're going to have to use Stevenson to come up and chip that guy. Now, that could take away from the running game that the Patriots have. But in looking at the yards, even though Seattle has yet less overall yards, it looks like they have less overall yards, but they take care of the football, and looking at this, them being at kind of like polar opposite on turnovers, less yards, but you take care of the football. Sometimes people have more yards, but they have more pluses. And let me tell you something, +3 is nothing to sneeze at with the Patriots. But in this football game, any type of plus will result in points. And it may result in points where, especially in the fourth quarter, where one team would have an advantage on the other. So I would say that the quality, and even the Patriots have a slightly better time of possession, almost the same. Now it's going to be not just who has a better time of possession, but what you do with that time of possession. Are you holding on to the ball? Are you kicking it? Or what will be the philosophy in this game to go for it on 4th down? That's one thing that hasn't come up as much, and we can talk about that later. Because going forward on 4th down in those possessions, it could change the whole complexion of the game for sure, and they could change it early. So looking at the coaches and looking at, both of those coaches, they seem to be conservative, but when they want to be, they can be aggressive. So depending upon looking at all those different things, what is going to put somebody in a better position where they have the momentum in the game, and in those yards, what is going to be the quality of what you get out of those yards passing, and of course out of those yards running, and how much are they going to be able to help the left tackle? Is that going to what will that take away from the passing game? And the thing is, Drake May needs both his tight ends and sometimes his running backs in the passing game, so he can make those particular plays that he makes. So anytime you take something away from a disciplined and you're out of your offense and you have a disciplined Seattle defense, it's going to be interesting to see what else he would do if those things weren't there and they don't give their left tackle some help. And of course, they have a Morgan Moses. This is the last thing. Morgan Moses is on the right side, and even though he came as a free agent and doing well, it's going to be whether he can make it through the game. He struggled with his conditioning during the playoffs and has just done enough to finish. He cannot do that in this game. So I think that's what's going to be the difference. Even though statistics are about the same, what's the quality and what will be the average? And I don't know if we know this. At some point, we'll look at whether they're going to play to go for it on fourth down or whether they play field position and take their chances later. Maybe nobody takes their chances and becomes a pedestrian game. But I think that New England has to pretty much keep their offense intact and don't make too many adjustments to take people out of the passing game.
Right. So something that jumps out for me that is a little bit misleading is that first line that we're looking at, the points per game.
Mm-hmm.
So New England's averaging slightly more than Seattle. I mean, it's negligible.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to round it up, they're averaging 29. Seattle's averaging 28. But in the playoffs so far, it's been very interesting. New England's average less than their season average. They're at a little over 24 points a game through the playoffs. And Seattle is at a whopping 31, I believe it is, points per game, 32 points per game in the playoff. Also, the turnovers are a little bit misleading. Again, I'm just looking at the playoff games in a microcosm. New England recovered their own fumbles multiple times in some of these playoff games. So they easily could be looking at a higher turnover margin there. And Seattle hasn't been ridiculous in producing turnovers in the playoffs. I think they've been pretty consistent, but that's another one that kind of jumped out at me. And G, you brought up something about the number of sacks and the intangible space when you look at these statistics where, how many times did somebody perhaps rush a passer that resulted in interception. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at a sack possibility on a pressure. You're looking at an interception on a pressure. You might be looking at a throwaway. There's a lot of different things that come with pressure. Right. And I think that disparity in sacks and interceptions can be a huge one here, especially when you're dealing with a young quarterback and really a young team. I mean, you're talking about a team that pretty much had the worst record in the league last year that has now they're one step away from climbing the highest mountain here. So those are the things that kind of look to me like make me go, this might be where the game is made. Everything else is pretty similar. Time of possession, yards per game. They're right on par with each other. But again, what we've seen in the playoff has deviated from this significantly.
And I really think that is important is that I think we talked about this during our college episodes, but momentum really plays a significant role. It becomes a piece of psychology, and which ends up diffusing into how you think, how you move. And right now, if you just look at pure playoff stats, Seattle stats are better overall.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I hate that the 2 weeks. I mean, I know it went to the 1 week gap between the championship games and the Super Bowl at one point. I didn't really like that either. Mm-hmm. But the 2 weeks really can stifle a team's momentum. And Seattle has been playing with their hair on fire for the last several weeks. New England, they had a stretch where they were really, really cooking. but I feel like down the stretch, they kind of were just getting by. And especially if you look at some of the playoff games, I mean, they beat the Chargers 16-3. Houston pretty much gave them their 28 points. That was 28-16. And then Denver was a 10-7. And people say the weather, but they played a whole half of football before that weather became a factor.
Yeah,
So, that's
that's
not
why I
really an
call them.
excuse.
That's why I say it's better to be lucky than good. Because I
Mm-hmm.
still say if Bo Nix was playing, that game would have turned out differently.
Oh, I agree with you. I think if you take the drive where they had a chance to really go up 14-0 when they went for it on fourth down instead of taking that field goal, Bo Nix is in there and that game gets to 14-0 with that defense.
Right.
And at the time, we don't know the weather's coming, but then that weather ends up coming, the game's probably over.
Agreed.
The game's probably over. Anyway,
Agreed.
so we've looked at these stats as we have for the games that we've analyzed all year. We've kind of used this as our measuring stick, and we know that there's much more there than this illustration shows, this comparison shows. I want to get into each side of the ball for these teams. I want to look at their offenses, look at their defenses, look at special teams, and then ultimately get into what are some of the key matchups, whether it's the lines against each other or individual players against each other. So first, let's take a look at New England on all sides of the ball. New England's designated at our home as the home team here. Interesting tidbit about New England. They're wearing their white jerseys, and they've never lost a Super Bowl in those white jerseys.
Well,
So
it's always a first time.
there
Yeah.
is certainly always a first time. So looking at New England and their offense.
In the playoffs, Drake May hasn't had a passing grade above 60, whereas Darnold has had above 70 passing grades this playoff. So I believe that Darnold is playing much better in the playoffs. And granted, New England was going up against some stout defenses on their way here, so you have to give them that. But nevertheless, what that means is they will have to run. They will definitely have to run, and you don't want to put your quarterback in harm's way against a team like Seattle, a defense like Seattle's. But you're going to have to script some May runs. You cannot get away from it with this particular defense. And here's the thing: May probably has to play lights out. He has to go. He has to find the Drake May of the regular season, and they really, 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 really need to look at how San Francisco beat Seattle and follow that script and avoid the turnovers. They have a lot of turnovers from their perspective, so they'll really need to avoid those turnovers. But if I had to summarize New England's offense, I would say they really have to establish the run. They have to make Seattle's defense fear Drake May's legs, but then May from the regular season needs to show up.
Yeah, I agree with both of you on that. I think New England really likes to bully you if they can offensively. And the thing that I harpen back to is the difference in the two games that they had with Buffalo. That first game, they really beat Buffalo up, ran the ball at will, and Drake May had these really nice third and short passes that he needed to make. He was using his legs a lot. I think that's the first time, actually, because that was a Sunday night game that we actually saw nationally that, oh, this kid's athletic and he can use his legs and beat you with his legs. So I think they had the perfect game plan that night. And I think that's how they like to play. They've been fortunate that they had some games this year where they were able to take advantage of some explosives. Like I know in the Tampa Bay game, they went back and forth with Tampa Bay and Atlanta, surprisingly, for a while. And they were able to win those games with a bunch of explosives. But ideally, I agree with you both. Their identity is to run the ball, stay in third and short, neutralize that pass rush, possibly with Drake May's legs, and, kind of control the ball. And they're going to take their shots, like you said, Big Dude. They're going to take their shots if they have them. Because they do have a couple of bigs on the outside, Mac Hollins and Butte, big receivers, and they're gonna win those jump balls on you. And Diggs is gonna work that perimeter in the middle and get those third and shorts and maybe get some yak for you. So I agree with you both about that offensively. I don't think there's a big secret in terms of what their identity is and what they're trying to do offensively. What about their defense, G? New England's defense has been back and forth to me all year. I've seen games where there's teams that have been pretty pedestrian on offense, able to move the ball on them and stay in the game. Again, going back to the second Buffalo game, Buffalo scored on every drive in the second half against them and was just gas type plays. James Cook was getting 6-7 yards a carry and, had an explosive touchdown run in that game. I'm not really sure what their identity is offensively, to be quite honest with you. Gee, what do they look like defensively to you?
They have to continue dialing up those blitzes, and that will, hopefully throw Darnold off. And this is pretty much what the 49ers did. So, and if you watch New England play during this playoff season, they have blitzed more. So I think they need to continue with that. But they really, really, really have to be stout in those first, 5-7 minutes of the game. They cannot let Seattle, jump out to a major lead, because if they do, they're not going to be able to get back into that game. So defensively, they need to continue turning up the heat, on the quarterback, and be really, really stout. Because here's the thing: New England is going to run. You know that. So they have to be prepared to stop that.
All right. Big Dude, what's your take on the identity of the Patriots defense?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the Patriots, they have a lot of folks out there, and in most NFL, they have a lot of athletes. Patriots have, and they're pretty disciplined too. They have athletes. They play. They don't sit back. They have an attacking style defense, I would call it. And they got some help when they got Milton Williams coming over for the Eagles. Signed Milton Williams. In fact, that's one of the great things I like to see is when a team, especially on defense, they get someone on defense that's worth the money, that's in the Super Bowl for the next year with the next team. And I think that he allows them, and a good defensive tackle like Milton Williams allows the linebackers and those other folks to scrape and play, and a guy that doesn't make as many mistakes. So he may not get a whole lot of other sacks. And again, it doesn't show up on the sack sheet, even the pressures and other things, but just their defensive line, their guys inside, they occupy space so the other folks can make the plays. Now, what's going to happen this time, even with Seattle, they're going to need some other help from some other people that they're not used to when they rotate. I know New England will rotate some people. They keep their players fresh, and they have some good people on the corner. Like Christian Gonzalez, who saw the kind of best of both worlds, where he got beat and then he redeemed himself. So, the other thing is that they don't panic. And they're always a very strong second half team. They will blitz, and they will put pressure on. That's the difference, and that's part of what they do in a game. It's hard to figure out where they started, and they're also not bad on special teams. I know in the last game they got a big field goal block from a person that just came off the practice squad. So I would say New England's defense is deep in talent. The question will be is with the big receivers that Seattle has and their offensive line. This is the best offensive line they've played against all season. They may disagree, but I'm not so sure how they're going to look with this offensive line, especially if New England gets pushed around up front. So they have the athletes. They play attacking style defense. They are very sound and very solid. The question will be with New England when they play Seattle this week. Seattle has a lot more choices, and especially those, and you mentioned Mac Hollins, there's some of those other folks that they're not going to blow past you, but they're going to be behind the linebackers and do what it is they have to do. So I'd say attacking style and going after the quarterback is the Patriots.
Can I
All right.
insert something in here real quick, Guru?
Mm-hmm.
So the other note I have was fake blitz schemes as well, because some teams have been able to run on New England from what I was reading. So if they're going to really pressure using blitz, they definitely need to also do some disguises and some fake blitz, which because New England would probably punish Seattle. I mean, let me back that up. Seattle could punish New England, you know, if they're just constantly blitzing and just all out, they can really punish them, you know, between the tackles with some good runs. So some of that they're gonna have to either do some disguises or do some fakes with the expectation that it might be a run and try to shut Seattle's run game down.
Big dude, you started to get into some special teams there. You mentioned the block punt. Can you take us there? How do you characterize the special teams for New England? Where are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses, if any, in those areas? How do you characterize their special teams?
They take care of the ball well. I haven't seen too much, and I don't recall all the games. I haven't watched them all year, but I think in the playoffs we saw they had people out there that they could rely on. That's what I meant by reliability. And again, the gentleman that was one of the people that blocked the field goal, number 93, Taylor, you know, just off the practice squad. You got people that are out there that are hungry. I'm not sure if they're in a position to return anything from a touchdown, but one of the things I saw with their special teams is they seem to have the understanding of what it is to do what you can to uphold the field position, to put May into a good spot with their offense. So I don't know about like I said, their return game, don't know a whole lot about it, but it just seems like those folks are, you know, pretty sure-handed. And, you know, the folks coming off the bench and doing their jobs, taking it serious enough to keep them in a good field position they need to be in. That's where I go with their special teams.
And G, what about your impression of their special teams?
I think that New England, they have to. I was looking at their kicking game, and so I think they have to do a lot better, you know, with the kicking game, I believe. And we'll get to Seattle, but they don't seem to have, they don't seem to be getting or pushing teams back. So teams must be receiving the ball, they're running 15, 20 yards with it versus booting it out of the end zone, and then you just have to pull it up to your normal start. So they have to prove that kickoff game. They cannot allow Seattle to score through any punts or kickoffs. I mean, Shaheed, he's a speedster, and you know, and he can break one at any moment. So on special teams, the kickoff team for New England has to they have to play within the game that they have. They have to play within their space. They can't get too high, too low, and just do really textbook coverage to make sure that Shaheed doesn't break one on them. So I just kind of look at it that way. What they have to do, prevent Shaheed from getting one, and improve their kickoff game.
Gotcha. So New England has had 3 kickoff return touchdowns this year, or excuse me, return touchdowns, 2 punts to 1 kickoff. Their field goal kicker is about 84, 85%, not blowing anybody away. But I think it's Marcus Jones is extremely dangerous, an extremely dangerous returner, and he could be a difference maker in this game. He could definitely be a difference maker in this game. So it'll be interesting to see how Seattle plays that, if they decide to kick it to him or not. But pretty solid special teams. Again, nothing that jumps off the page. Certainly some of the rule changes. I hate the kickoff rule.
Oh my God, that is
I
horrible.
just despise it. and I
That's
think
a
that
tough
that
one.
impacts it as well. But nothing that jumps off the page for me for them. I know their punter, not that great. Lowest, I think they're maybe 24th in the league in terms
Pretty
of punts
bad from what
inside
I
the
read.
20. So that could come into play. But if we had to pick an area, I guess as we wrap up the analysis of New England side of the ball, special teams is probably their weakest area, but it's not terrible.
But here's the
Yeah.
interesting thing, and I'm jumping ahead to Seattle. With their kickoff game, I mean, they're putting up 50 yards on people. So basically,
Mhm.
Seattle is able to play keep away, but New England really isn't.
Well, let's start there. Since you went there, G, let's go a little backwards with Seattle. Let's start with their special teams. Anything to add to what you just said?
No, that was the big thing that stuck out to me when I was looking at special teams is that they're really able to put teams, back, with their backs to their own end zone. And I think that being able to play keep away is really, really important.
All right, big dude, what is your impression of Seattle special teams?
Well, they have, Shaheed. That's probably, I would say, in the last 10 years, one of the biggest trades or one of the biggest pickups, I should say, that I've seen to have somebody that could flourish. Returns. Um, Anytime somebody's a threat and they take you out of your comfort zone, and that's the biggest thing that I know about with Seattle special teams. They went and they got him specifically. And I think you talked about what gets a team, and we were talking about a different sport, what gets Seattle over the hump. I think having a tremendous special team person like Shaheed is what gets them over the hump and can make the difference actually to put some space between them and whatever opponent they have. So
Hmm.
I would say the return game is the X factor for sure.
Yeah, and Seattle, ironically, is second in kickoff returns. Like New England, they have one kickoff return for a touchdown and two punt return touchdowns. So they're even there in terms of their impact on special teams and being able to make big plays. And that's huge. To
Mhm.
a lot of people, that might, well, they only have three returns. Well, teams go years without and decades without having a return touchdown. And you hear it in a lot of these games that somebody will return a touchdown and they're like, they haven't had a touchdown return since 2000. So that is not common for
Right,
Right.
teams to have three return touchdowns in the season. So,
right.
let's not underscore that to everyone, viewing or listening to us. That's a really huge statistic. And that might be one of the things that makes a difference in this game on either side. But I agree with you wholeheartedly, big dude. That Rashid Shaheed pickup was so huge. I mean,
Hmm.
he's been impactful right away. He's been impactful in every game so far. I mean, he returned the opening kickoff of the divisional round game to the house.
What's
And
Seattle
that
average start when they're receiving?
I do not know. I don't know what
Okay.
their average start is based off the kickoff rules. It's probably the 40-yard line.
Yeah.
But
Because when he receives the ball, I mean he's getting some yards. So
mhm,
Seattle, I don't think they're starting with their backs against the wall often.
mhm. But yeah, other than that, the field goal kickers are pretty pedestrian. I mean, they're ranked 10th in field goals, but that's only 85%. But we've seen a lot of kicking mishaps this season, and I don't think there's been one weekend where we haven't texted each other the
Right.
kickers in college and pro football. It's the
Hmm.
kickers.
Uh,
So if anybody's got sons or daughters out there that can kick, there's some money to be made.
well, they need to rethink that. They need to rethink that. I think it's a GPS tracker or something that they have in the ball.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
they got to
think that is
figure out
messing
something.
with some of the weight distribution
Yeah, wouldn't
or
surprise
something.
me that it's impacting it. All right, this is obviously a glaring one as we break down Seattle. Their defensive identity. They get after it. That defense gets after it. And yesterday's episode, we talked about, we compared them to Denver, that was ranked first. We compared them to the Houston defense. They certainly will go down as one of the great defenses. And if they can seal this game with a great defensive performance, that, cements them in history as well. G, what's your perspective on what the defensive identity for Seattle is? I mean, we know they're a bunch of dogs, but get into the nuances of it. What do they really want to do to you? What do they do so well that keeps people on their heels?
You know what? I made a note here. Pressure may stop the run, but the way May is throwing this playoff season, make him throw.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can make him throw, if they can make New England really not think the run can work. And I actually think Seattle has the ability to do that, to force May to throw. So yeah, I think one, pressure, stop that run, which we know they can do. New England is tied for third in giveaways. So take advantage of that. Make May throw.
And it's interesting because Seattle is third against the rush. So,
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How you going to get away from that?
Right.
Yeah.
Big dude, what do you have on the Seattle defense?
Well, the edge, of course, being the biggest ones we know about. Speaking of big pickups again, DeMarcus Lawrence coming over, just flashing that number 0 of his, being dominant, and the thing about it is, you just mentioned them being able to play the run too. You gotta, as defensive ends, people think defensive ends just have to do quarterback pressures and things such as that and just get upfield. Well, you do have to get upfield, but you have to be able to play the run, because if I think you're just, and I'm a coach, and I think you're just going to go upfield, I'm just going to tell the lineman, hey, let's run the draw. Let's turn them out.
Right.
Let's run the jet sweep and watch them over pursue. But I think what you have on Seattle, they know how to stuff the run. I think they said in Seattle, they led the NFL on defensive success rate at 34.4% against the run, against the third fewest rushing yards per game, which is 91.9. That's incredible for a whole season. And you also had on the edge, I think it's Boye Mafe, the other edge guy who has been tremendous as well. And they seem to, I think what I remember, they kind of run a 3-4, but you can't tell it's a 3-4. That's what some of the teams do. It looks like a 3-4, but they really are running like a 4-3, but they seem to have something with their scheme that people can't fit out as well, because if you do that,
They're rotating up and down. If you watch them, they're doing a lot of disguises with that front seven.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. You start to look at it, you can't tell whether it's a 4-3 or a 3-4. I mean, sometimes that's why they stop calling people defensive ends and outside linebackers or Sams and Willies, because all those things cross over. Sam used to be, of course, a strong side linebacker. Willie, for those that don't know, weak side linebacker. So they are, but they have to be able to hold the edge and hold the run, and also whatever else they do with their DBs. I think they also splice in the nickel, and I think that they limit the explosive plays. You don't see too many people going the distance on them. At least I haven't seen. I'm sure somebody has, but I haven't seen too many people go the distance. So I would say Seattle is solid at almost all levels. You got people that, if they weren't all pros, they're in a position, to go all pros. Defensive line, linebackers, and the defensive backs. And of course they got a real nice rookie. That's that corner, that is there. But Seattle, first in scoring defense, first in success rate, interceptions 5th, and yards allowed 6th. Solid all the way across the board.
All right. So I don't really have much add to their defensive identity. I think that they're really going to look to get after May, as you've both mentioned, and just do what they do. I think he's going to try to do what they've done all year to people. To be quite
Pretty
honest
much.
with you, get in their face, get you in third and long, and be able to let those defensive ends get at you
Right.
and force some turnovers. So, big dude, what about Seattle's offense? And this is certainly eyes are going to be on this just because of the Sam Darnold story. It's such a great story. So the
Yeah,
eyes are definitely going to be on the offense. But one of the things about them offensively is that Zach Charbonnet is out, which on the surface doesn't really seem probably like a big deal to a lot of people because you do have Kenneth Walker. But if you look at the last 2 or 3 years with Seattle, and especially for those of us who play fantasy, Kenneth Walker was straight money. He was the premier
Yep.
back. He was getting all your fantasy points. But that trend started to switch, and especially this year, I feel like Zach Charbonnet was the man this year, and Kenneth Walker came and just kind of cleaned up. But you did have that two-headed monster, and I think that if Zach was playing, this game would look very different in terms of what New England would need to do to be able to stop this team. But I'll
Mhm.
leave that there. Big dude, what's your take on the offensive identity for Seattle and what they want to try to do in this game?
Yeah. I think they're a bang between the tackles, especially with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III. They bang the ball between the tackles because they can. That means when they can do that, there's play action. And when there's play action, there's some quick passing games. That's why I think because they run the ball so well, their play action works really well. I mean, if you're not running the ball, you're not going to be able to run play action. Who are you fooling? You're only fooling yourself. That's what we used to say. So just got to lean on the defensive line. I mean, and then when you got two stud tackles, I think the one guy is Cross and the other guy is Lucas. You know, and Bradford, who's their right guard, he's probably, I would say, the weakest link out of all of them. The guy can still play, but Seattle's thing is smash mouth football, short passing game, hit you when the explosive plays are there. They're not going to force the explosive plays. And Darnold, and I would say, Kubiak, of course, as the offensive coordinator, is pretty patient, but he is also someone that keeps it going. He's patient, but he's very methodical about how they want to run the offense. And then, of course, their thing is ball control, protection of the ball, and we saw that they have the ball about 30 minutes a game, much like New England. New England is maybe a minute more. So they play the same type of game. I just think that when you start talking about knockout punch ability from those things, especially with play action and Darnold not being forced to make plays, I think that's the difference between Seattle and New England. I think that Drake May a lot of times will be forced to make some plays and is able to do that. In this particular game, though, it'll be interesting to see if Seattle has another back now that Charbonnet's out to help complement Kenneth Walker III. If they can come up with their other back and also use their tight ends as part of what it is that they need. But I think that the tackles that we talked about, for the most part, will be handled on their own business on the edge. And when you can handle your own business on the edge without help, you got a lot more choices in the short passing game. And then, of course, your level of aggressiveness and where you're able to hold on to the football will open up all those other situations with those big receivers and your tight end. So it is a methodical ball control knockout punch when it comes to the fourth quarter. That's what I would describe Seattle as.
And how do you see Seattle's offense, G?
You know how the general convention is, you first establish the run because then that'll allow you to pass. I think this is going to be one of those games where Seattle needs to establish the pass.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to show that they can get 10, 15-yard passes done, just like rolling out of bed. I think that they have three receiving options that are really, really good, and they can actually make that happen. But they do have to be aware that, New England, they have some really, really, tight defenders back there. So they really have to avoid the takeaways, but nevertheless, they can be ran on, they can be thrown on. Seattle does have that type of balance, but I would come out trying to really establish my 10, 15-yard passing game or my short passes designed to get a lot of yak afterwards. That's what I think that they should do. The Bills, when they play New England and that crazy comeback, it shows you that if your offensive tools are clicking, you can definitely throw on New England if they're clicking. And we know Seattle's defense is going to show. Well, we don't know, but it's highly likely Seattle's defense is going to show. But throw the ball. Don't be afraid to throw that ball. Look for yak, look for 10 and 15s, then take some shots. Keep them honest. And what that is going to do then open up the running game. Because, we talked about, I always mispronounce this gentleman's name, Charbonnet. We talked about him being out. So now they don't have him and Walker. They're going to have Walker and who's going to be playing George Halani. So in order to make their lives a little easier, that passing game is going to have to be a threat, a constant threat.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, G. They definitely can't be one-dimensional because if they become one-dimensional, they'll feed right into what New England wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Darnold is not – he can run, and I think he's deceptive, but New England has a very fast defense. And
Yes,
I
they
don't
do.
know that he would be that effective unless, they've set up some plays where they've schemed it and, have set up something to open those runs up for him. But just him scrambling, that's not going to work.
Nope.
If they, so they definitely are going to have to find a way to establish that run. I think that's their identity. I think that's what they want to do. I know the San Francisco playoff game wasn't much, but what I found interesting about that game, once Seattle knew that they had it in control, they pounded that rock, boy. And I've seen teams in those situations, we're up. Let's see what we can do with our passing game. Let's get some guys going. Seattle said, nope, this is what we're going to do. And we're basically going to use this clock and beat you up at this point. And I think they basked in that because it was a division opponent. So I'm sure they love bullying them again. Because if you look at Darnold's passing stats, he was 12 from 17 in that game, 124 yards. He only threw that ball 17 times. So
Wow.
Seattle is not going to come off that run if they don't have to. So I think that kind of segues us right into the next part of our show. We've done a pretty good analysis. We've looked at both sides of the ball, or all sides of the ball, I should say. You always ignore special teams as a side of the ball, but all sides of the ball for both teams. Based on our analysis up to this point, where are the key matchups that could decide this game? Big dude, I'm going to start with you. Where are all the key matchups that you've identified? I know you've touched on a few of them already, but where do you think this game could really be won? Either in lines going against each other, individual players? Where do you see the keys?
I think matchups, and I'm not sure exactly what side of the ball JSN is on. I would assume that it'll be a couple of different ones, but I say JSN and Christian Gonzalez will be one of the bigger ones. And also Cooper Kupp, even though, JSN, he's going to give you a mixture of things. He's going to go across the middle and he's going to go, other places, and he'll go deep and he'll do a wheel route, and he'll do a stop and go. The question is going to be, what is he going to be doing during the game? Are the Patriots, for example, are they going to play JSN a certain way? Are they going to fall off of him, or are they going to come up to try to play them to take their chances. I think one of the things that has to happen is, the Patriots have got to realize that they're going to probably make Gonzalez make a lot of tackles. One of the biggest problems with offenses in the NFL and other places is when they get too much into the explosives, you make it too easy for the DBs. A lot of people think that when somebody throws the ball a lot, you just mentioned Darnold was 12 of 17, but look at what he got and look at what he made count. The question is going to be is, are you going to throw those short passes and be efficient with them and make that corner and make those corners make the tackle? Because if those corners, if they don't have a lot of tackles in those games, you're not making them work hard enough. So I think looking at that, matchup, that's a one big one. Of course, like I said, both sides of the ball will be important with him and Butte and JSN and of course Cooper Kupp, on that side, and of course with Stephon Diggs. Now we know Stephon Diggs had a solid year this year. Where are they going to look at Stephon Diggs, especially if Stephon Diggs comes up against that rookie corner number 27? Will he be able to play Stephon Diggs, or is he going to fall prey to Stephon Diggs getting inside his head? Because that's what happened last week. Some stuff happened. Somebody got inside his head, and it didn't go well for a while. When they were able to recover, I know Stephon Diggs about him. Just even though he doesn't have quite the speed he used to have. He's still fast, but he's even smarter than he is fast. I think that's what you'll see in the Super Bowl. It won't be so much that speed kills. It'll be experience. It'll be skills. The same way, again, with the offensive line and the defensive end, can DeMarcus Lawrence, can he be stopped by Will Campbell or their other tackle, Moses? How much is he going to be able to give them before May can't get away? Because the good part about May is he's young, he's athletic, and he can get away. I would say those matches on the edge, and also Milton Williams going against the guard Anthony Bradford, who is on Seattle's line. I think Milton Williams, for the Eagles, he got the contract. He got the $100 million contract. The Eagles couldn't pay him. Came to the Patriots and helped get him here again. So I think if the game is going to be closer, it's going to be because Milton Williams wins that battle against Bradford, and he's going to need to win it more often. And the other person whose name I haven't thrown in, who also came over from the Eagles, is Elias, number 53 from the Patriots, who's a linebacker that didn't quite get his shot with the Eagles. Everybody, was there, moved on, more athletic. But Elias Vrabel's made a player out of him. So those people that we haven't heard from, again, it's not going to be all the matchups that we know about. It's going to be the other ones that emerge that we don't know about, where somebody says, hey, I can take him. Give me the ball. And that everybody thinks that's going to be the fastest guy. That might be Cooper Kupp saying, hey, that guy is not going to be able to guard me. Or the tight end, hey, I'm running down a slot and nobody's paying me any mind. The safety's drifting the other way. So it's going to be really the smallest things, and the smallest movements that's going to leave people wide open, on those crossing patterns. And it's going to be how they respond to some of those other things, especially when they get caught up and a linebacker gets caught up on JSN. If a linebacker gets caught up on JSN, it's history. That's where Elias, that's what he doesn't want to do. He's a good player and he's come this far. You don't want a linebacker like him who's a good linebacker, but he can't cover JSN on a crossing pattern. History. Yep.
For you, G, what do you think are the key matchups that could decide this game?
Okay, I kind of boiled it down to first the no-brainer in my world, the offensive lines versus the defensive lines. I mean, that's always going to be a no-brainer. I'll just put that out there. But then to take it a little deeper, I really see Seattle's quarterback versus New England's linebacker core because that linebacker core is
Mm.
really good at pass defense and rushing the quarterback. So I think that's really going to be interesting. And the wide receivers versus the corners. New England has some really tight corners, so that's going to be interesting. When I think about 5, 10 yards past scrimmage, that area is going to have a lot of activity. So I'm definitely going to be looking at that. The X factor for me is the run game, particularly on high stakes downs in the red zone. I think whoever can really control that red zone with the run game, who can get those 3rd and 4s, those 3rd and 3s. That I think those are going to be some X factors in this particular game. And the reality is, I believe for both teams, whichever team gives up the most in runs will likely lose.
All right. For both of you have touched on things that I agree with. Definitely had both lines, both ways against each other will be huge. Basically, whoever wins that interior battle on both sides. G, you brought up something that I'm glad you brought up with the quarterback on the linebacker situation, specifically Sam Donald on the New England linebackers. There's a key injury that the Patriots have there with Robert Spillane, one of their veteran
Oh, really?
linebackers who hurt his ankle. I believe
Ooh,
he hurt it in the Denver game, but he may have gotten hurt before then. I don't quote me on that. He's confident he's going to be 100%, but I've had an ankle injury before. If you've ever had a bad ankle injury, I had the
bad.
injury all year. It never got better.
Mhm.
So, and it still impacts me to this day. It was many years ago. So I don't think that's really going to get better for him. Uh, Also, I feel, G, you touched on it, the secondaries and the wide receivers. I was trying to assess the size. I think the Seattle DBs have a little bit of size on them.
Yeah, they
Obviously,
do.
Mac Hollins is a big guy, but Butte is 5'11". And who am I missing here? I got Diggs, but Diggs isn't a really big guy. So Mac Hollins is your big guy on that team. And you can probably put my big boy on there. I think Witherspoon, I think has a little bit of size on him. You could probably put him on Mac if you want to jam him at the line. So I'm really going to be intrigued by the secondary wide receiver matchups because
Mm,
outside of JSN, there's nobody that's a superstar, right? There's nobody that going to keep anybody up at night. Though you have some receivers out there who can do some damage, if they get the right matchup. So you touched on it, big dude. Who are they going to put on who? What side are they going to line these receivers up on is going to play a big role. I do believe Cooper Kupp is going to be an X factor, and I forget about him sometimes. Being a veteran, this is probably it for him. He's been here before. The knowledge that he can convey to that young receiving core that he has, even in how to manage the emotions and manage these 2 weeks leading up to this game, they're going to be huge, I think. And that might be an X factor. He might end up, because JSN will draw so much attention, he might end up being an unsung hero in this thing at the end of the day. So for me,
bro,
those
I'm
are
thinking that they're going to pull not only that, I think that New England is going to focus so much on JSN that not only Cup, I think they're going to slide Shaheed in against those safeties, even though those safeties are stellar. But I think they're going to slide him in for some of those shots downfield.
Shaheed has a huge opportunity in this game on offense. Certainly, he's big in the special teams, but he will have a huge opportunity here to make some plays. And New England's going to really have to decide how they want to play this, and really a lot of it's going to come down to what that matchup looks like. If JSN is beating CG, then we got to get some help.
Right,
Now, now you have a problem because somebody's going to be open.
right.
So, see, it's going to be crucial. That's probably the most important matchup, and I think it's been consistent throughout our discussion. That might be the most important matchup. If CG can handle JSN
Yeah.
one-on-one, then that's going to make it very interesting because I know he's
Yep.
bigger than JSN, but JSN is super strong and his route running is immaculate.
Bruh.
I mean, dude will break your ankles. So
Yeah.
how is CG going to play him? You can jam him. If you can get your hands on him and jam him, you might be able to hold him off. But if you play off a little bit, he's going to eat you alive. I'm telling you that. I'll
Bruh,
go on record saying that right now.
I envision a whole lot of non-calls that should be called
Yeah.
in England's way. This is going to probably be a poorly refed game. But yeah, I definitely. You just made me think about something. I hate to just jump in, but you just made me think about something. If JSN is shut down, will they start doing focus on a lot more medium yak type stuff? Just get your hand into your speedster, get the ball in your speedster hand, and just let him get yards. To kind of pull a lot of those linebackers and those cornerbacks down, and then just kind of leave the safeties on islands.
I know there's always an if.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a world where JSN gets shut down. I
By
just
one
don't see
person,
him
you
getting
don't think
shut
so?
down. Not by one person, no. Not by anybody that exists in the league at this juncture. Is there a Prime or Revis reincarnated coming? Champ Bailey reincarnated coming? Because
Bro,
Nope.
you going deep.
Yeah.
and I love CG. Don't get it twisted. He's one of the best out there. But this JSN, his route running, I was watching some old clips of him. At every level, he was breaking ankles. And I slept on him. I'm not going to lie to you. At
Because you're a
Ohio State, I
hater.
thought he was fantastic. He was one of the most Like, I loved watching him at Ohio State, and you know I despise Ohio State, but I loved watching him. He was an absolute beast. But I'm thinking, great college player, little undersized for me at receiver. He's fast, but they'll start bodying him up, put their big DBs on him. He ain't going to do nothing.
So how would
Man,
you use him? How would you use him against New England?
How would I use JSN against New England?
Yeah.
It all depends on how they try to play me. Because
Yeah.
if CG tries to jam me, and I know he's going to try to jam me, then I'm going to try to beat him with my quickness. Because he is strong. He's stronger than you think. So he's not incapable of getting off the jam. What will have to help CG there is that New England defensive line. They're going to have to get – if Darnold can stand back there, this is going to be ugly. You know what it'll be like when Seattle played Denver in the Super Bowl that when Peyton Manning had the safety on like the first drive or something like that.
Yeah.
It will be that bad. It would be that bad if they can't get to Sam Darnold because Seattle's going to get to May.
Mm-hmm.
You can trust me on that.
Yeah.
They are going to get to Drake May.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they can do some design runs and try to hold them off a little bit. I don't think New England's going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to have to pass. And I think Drake May is going to have probably maybe 3-4 turnovers.
So basically what you're saying is that if New England's linebackers don't show out, they can pretty much hang it up.
Yeah.
New England, this is what I think in a nutshell. I think New England has to play the best game it's played all year, and Seattle has to play a subpar game. If they both play good games, New England's not going to stand a chance. They're going to have to find a way to get to Darnold, because if you don't get to Darnold, there's nothing. What are you going to do if you don't get turnovers and you don't sack him?
Right. You know, it's interesting you said that, because as I was going back looking at different types of stats, something that kept coming back to was Seattle is above average in everything.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's different. That's different. And I'm like, how do you game for that?
And that scares me. That is something that scares me about this game. It's too easy. And we're saying all year, New England didn't play anybody. They're going to be exposed. And then I was one of the people, I didn't think the Chargers had a chance. They were too injured and their O-line was too banged up.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert was still banged up. But I thought surely Houston would take them out.
Well,
Mm.
C.J. Stroud I think something went on with his mental game in
Oh,
that
he was
particular.
shot. He was shot. And then Denver, of course, you can't account for the freak injury to Bo Nix. But we all know, I think 100 out of 100 people would bet that Denver would be in the Super Bowl had Bo Nix been playing. So
No doubt.
you nail it with the luck, but they're there now, and luck can happen in the Super Bowl. I've been
True
on the
that.
bad end of this before when it was a seemingly thinking the Giants in Buffalo, we were the most explosive. No one could stop us all year. Scored
Right.
51 points in the AFC Championship game.
Thermal Thomas.
And they got that pace. They held us in check. They got the pace
4
to where they
times
wanted
that
it.
happened.
Yep. So if New England were to win it, it's not like we haven't seen it happen before. I just don't see any letdown. I don't feel like they have a coach and that they have the type of players that will allow them to have a letdown. Even if it didn't start
Mm-hmm.
out good for them, I think eventually they'd be like, okay, fellas, what are we doing here? Let's
Hmm.
step this up. I don't see it. I don't see it. So yeah, those are the matchups for me, man. I think, yeah, everything you guys all said, I'm just going to be repetitive at this point. I think those are the key matchups. It's actually a pretty black and white game to break down if you really look at it. I mean, some weird things I think have to happen for this to go in a different direction. I mean, no matter what you've been hearing about this game, it's pretty consistent. Like you broke it down in a nutshell, G. Seattle is above average at everything. So how do you game plan for that?
I was thinking about something Big Dude said earlier. I'm like, from a New England perspective, because I do believe they have the edge at running back at the moment because of the injury. Um, how does New England's line really shut down those edge rushers? But sometimes those edge rushers they will fake outside, either spin or do a chop and go in, or sometimes they would do a quick pivot and go in. So I think that the how do you prevent them? Because I mean, Seattle has some serious edges, but how do the tackles, or if you have your running back or tight end, contain them and keep them from making that cut inside and
I
forcing
don't know
Yeah.
them
how you do.
outside
Yeah.
One of the things,
consistently.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you got to make sure that you're able to never give up the inside. That's just it. I mean, that part of, especially on pass rush, everything you're doing, you have your inside foot up. And if you hear Sean Madden even talks about it on his video game, that the guy isn't keeping his inside foot up to counter either way. And if they want to go upfield, that's fine, as long as they're not cutting down the edge, and as long as, because when you pass rush almost like your shoulder, almost kind of like a J from the outside. You're
Hmm.
you're going, and then you don't want to get deeper than the quarterback. The thing is,
Hmm.
like with May, if you get deeper than the quarterback, he steps in the pocket
trouble,
and he's
trouble,
gone.
trouble.
So, but I think hitting them straight ahead, G, as you said earlier, will give them more. They won't be spinning as much. If they are averaging 4 and 5 yards of run, I don't think you'll see as much spinning. Or even if you're doing well, I think that's what's good about Seattle. They're patient. You might get a play where you get a 4 or 5 yard loss. Yeah. But sooner or later, you get inside the 20, and here comes a shovel pass. With a
Hmm.
guy coming through there. And maybe you do get to the quarterback, but it's too late, and there's no one accounted for. See, what New England's got to do is, and they're a good defense, but if they are so aggressive that they leave people unaccounted for, that's where.
Hmm.
And I think that they have the discipline also. But I think the real issue is going to be the discipline on the edge, not just there, but with Gonzalez in the other corner. Because I'm telling you, JSN, if he even doesn't have a lot of yards passing, if they have to keep tackling him, that's the mental game. They'll keep tackling him, and then sooner or later, that's where all their energy is going to go. And then guess what? All of a sudden, you've had to tackle him 6 or 7 times, and you're not paying attention as much. You don't look at his footwork because you're making him work. And I think that's what this game's going to be about, you know. And it's going to be the same way with the offensive linemen. You know, you got to make that defensive lineman work, because what I learned about a lot of defensive linemen, there's some that are outstanding defensive linemen, and they know how to play it. They know how to secure the edge, and they know how to play the run, and they know how to pass rush. But then you have those other people who are tremendous athletes, but not great defensive linemen. There's a difference. Yeah,
So
some people are tremendous athletes.
Let's get back to the New England O-line versus the Seattle defensive line, because I believe Seattle's going to try to get there with the 4-man rush.
Yeah.
And if they're able to do that, this game's done.
It's over.
Yeah,
It'll be done
DeMarcus Lawrence,
immediately.
man. There's no way. If you get DeMarcus Lawrence, you get the other guy. If you get the other guy, it's going to be DeMarcus Lawrence. And they don't need the blitz, you know. And I think that, you know, the thing that Seattle needs to keep in mind is, you know, May will run. May ran for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns this year, you know. So he'll go ahead and he'll make a play, but he don't want to do that too much.
But let me throw this out there at you guys, because I'm envisioning everything you just said, okay? This 4-man front is able to get there, right? They're able to basically clog up that middle. And I'm just thinking, well, where is New England going to run? Because a lot of times May scoots through that middle of the line when there's body on body, he finds a gap. It's not going to be the same type of gaps that maybe you've seen all year in the middle. So now you're trying to bounce to the outside, right? That's a very fast defense. I don't think Travian Henderson would have the best chance of getting outside, but Seattle can string you out so well.
Yeah.
I see New England having a really hard time trying to run the ball. They're off. This was the worst offensive line in football last year. They've gotten better. They've gotten a lot better, but they're not very good. I would say they're good. That's being very complimentary. I'm not going to go above they're good, but they're playing a great defensive line. This is going to be ugly. This is going to be ugly.
Bro, you got me thinking now.
Yeah, I mean that left tackle.
Now I'm
Campbell.
curious.
I don't understand the point spread. I don't understand the point spread at all. And that point spread bothers me. It really bothers me, because this is not a 4.5-point game. What do they know that we don't know?
Then
the only thing that I could think about is Seattle going to turn the ball over? Is Darnold going to revert back to bad habits, or should I say New England's going to be able to get to him? Because if I'm Seattle, you know what I'm telling Sam Darnold right now? They're going to get to you a few times. I think the line's giving up 2.5 sacks in the playoffs a game. They're going to get you, okay? Protect that ball. Don't give them the ball at the 10-yard line, because that's a sure way to lose. When your turnovers in your own red zone, you know, bad, you're trying to throw the ball away and it ends up being a bad interception. Those are the things that'll kill you in these games. And even if Darnold gets pressure and it's not going his way, protect the ball, punt, end it with a kick. Because your defense is better than them. Your defense is better than their offense. So punt the ball away. If they start turning it over, that's going to be the equalizer. And New England will get the longer this game stays close, New England will get more and more confidence. Because now you have Vrabel over there, which we talked about the coaches a little bit Wednesday, but we didn't dig into it any further today. Now you got Vrabel over there. We got a 20-17 game in the fourth quarter, and it's pretty much been back and forth. You've gotten the Darnold. You've held JSN for the most part, and you think you can win this thing. You got a chance to win this, and now you think you can win it. That's a dangerous scenario for Seattle. That's a really dangerous scenario.
I was curious. I'm looking up to try to see running back receiving yards, trying to seeing what that comparison is. Because remember, I talked about that that if Seattle they need to put pressure on May. But I also said though he can hurt you with his legs. But I'm also curious is when there's a blitz or you're actually or the pocket's collapsing. How has his running backs been as outlet receivers? And so that's what I'm looking up right now.
That's a great question. And from what I've seen on film, even when it happened in the Houston game, the defenses are too quick. There's certain teams, certain things you cannot run against. And I don't know if New England's line is good enough to pull off any type of screen plays to get chunk yards. That Seattle defense flies around. And it's almost like they're not even afraid for you to go up top. Some of those DBs come up so aggressively. They're not even afraid. And I'm wondering, are you going to be threatened by New England's receivers? When you probably come up in the box even more playing New England?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's going to be interesting. I think if New England can get, is he in or out, Henry Hunter?
Hunter Henry?
Hunter Henry, got it backwards. Sorry. Hunter Henry was also kind of that release valve that they had this year that kind of gave them something. Again, it didn't necessarily win the game, but it kept New England on the field. So I think New England's going to have to figure out with that fast defense, how are you going to stay on the field? And they're going to have to believe in whatever their defense is. Although I think when we start talking about taking chances, I'm not so sure how you do it early. I think New England will probably be the first team that goes for it on fourth down, especially if they get inside the 40 of Seahawks.
It definitely looks like New England uses their running backs more in the passing game.
Yes.
So so that's something Seattle will have to account for, whether or not they're using the front four or if they're blitzing, is that they probably have at least four pass options on any particular play.
Right, but you're absolutely right. That's why I was saying earlier that I think the issue is going to be those tackles. Moses, he's played for a little bit, and can they play with no help? So those running backs can be in the passing game, because if not, where's their help going to come from if Seattle is getting to Drake May and they're not blitzing? If they're getting to Drake May without blitzing, they've got to do something. So a lot of times they'll chip before they go out. The running backs will chip that guy coming and say, hey, I'm going out. We're going to chip this guy, or am I going to keep him in to make sure DeMarcus Lawrence doesn't put him on his sternum?
I think Seattle will have to add that wrinkle, though, because it looks like they didn't use him as much. So what
question you asked about Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is banged up, but expected to play.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because I think that'll make a difference in theirs. Because if they didn't have him, then they'd be without that option. And then what do? Do you go 4 wide? Do you go 5 wide? Or who's the new H-back? Hunter Henry lines up kind of as an H-back outside the tackle, which I would say, if I were going to do anything like that to slow down DeMarcus Lawrence or the other linemen, I would have Hunter helping. He may even be able to get a delay or two, but if they can hit him somehow in that offense to stay on the field, then they have a better chance. I don't think, not a great chance, but if Seattle gets to the quarterback without any help of the blitz, New England is really in trouble on offense.
Going back to what you just found, G, the running backs possibly coming out of the backfield. One area where they might be able to exploit is Josh Jobe. I think he might be one of the lesser of. He's gotten better. He was on the practice squad for a little bit before being moved up, and I think he had a stint with the Birds, big dude.
Right?
But
yes, he did.
You might be able to get a mismatch on him, possibly. So that's going to be something I'll have my eye on, how they use those running backs coming out of the backfield, because that's a great point. And New England better be careful on the other end too, because if Kenneth Walker he catches out of the backfield, and if he gets going the way he runs, my goodness.
Exactly.
But Steph, you a big dude, you brought up chances and going for it on fourth down. Who do we think is going to be the biggest risk taker in this game? I mean, we know Vrabel has a history of going for him. He's in Tennessee. He loved going for it on fourth down, but you also have big Derrick Henry in the backfield. I'm not sure how wise he would be to go for it on a fourth and long one situation against this defensive line. It's got to be inches, centimeters type situation if I'm going to take that chance. And definitely the field position's got to be right. Mm-hmm. I hope nobody does something like that flips the game, where you're taking an unnecessary Ben Johnson type of gamble, I call it, because Ben Johnson does stuff like that. At your own 40, I'm going to go for it type of situation in a close game. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Vrabel, he wants to win. I think he believes in his defense, and we might have our view on, just how good they can be. I think he believes their defense is going to keep them in the game, but there's going to come to a point where there's only so much you're going to be able to do. You don't want to run out of gas in the third quarter or at some point get discouraged as a defense. But I agree with you that I think that if they're inside the 50, I want to say maybe about the 45 or 43. I don't know that it's, especially past that, depending upon what the score is. If you're down by 3 and you think you can get a field goal to tie it and rely on your defense, you can do that. What has happened is, of course, the culture that we see in this NFL, it's not just them. It's something that's gone up so much over the last decade. I mean, a whole lot that people are going for it almost like at some point they look at chances and they look at it in a different way, and they have these fourth down plays. I think in this game, I don't think it would be wise, not just because Seattle's fast and strong. Seattle's just plays so much smarter, and then, them getting the ball at midfield and having a short field, they won't be able to eat as much clock, but they may be able to get up by 10 or 13 points, which makes it more difficult if you're playing from behind. Seattle's not a team that you want to play from behind, but at the same time, you got to give them something, as they said, and remember the Titans, you have to give them something that they're not ready for on fourth down. Now, naked bootleg, I don't think you try that against them. I don't think that's going to work. So what is it that you would do if you are going to do it on fourth down, and why do you have to go for this one? I think that's what happened to the Rams. We never really got a chance to talk about that game as much. I think the Rams got excited when they got that first 4th and 1, and they got it, and they said, well, when we get to the next 4th and 1, we're going to go for that one too. Maybe that first one was the right one to go for. And the second one, you tried it, and it's like, okay, now let's get to 3 points, because you've also taken some tread off of the tires of the other team. So I think that's what's going to be for New England and their offensive line. And they have youth, across the board as well. Their left side is young. Can they take some tread off of that Seattle team with the run? Because they can't give up on the run. And I don't think you're going to see a 300-yard game from Drake May, even though Drake May threw for 70%. I think that you got to take some tread off of Seattle's tire. And it's not going to be a team that quits. But if you quit on a running game, then you make it difficult for yourself, and you make it difficult for your tackles. You got to keep your people across the front, keep them aggressive in some ways. Even if you get down by 12 or you get down by 13, you got to keep running to find out how you strike when the irons is hot.
Drake May hasn't shown me anything in this playoff run to make me think that he's going to get close to getting 300 yards against Seattle, because he hasn't played well in the playoffs. He just hasn't. Right. I mean, he's what? He's 4 turnovers. He's been sacked 10 times.
Sacked 10 times.
Sacked 10 times.
Jeez.
And I don't even think I have all the things on here. He's fumbled 5 times, and he's lost 3 of them.
Yep. And look, if it gets down to these 4th and 1s for New England, first and foremost, I truly believe that they know they're playing with house money at this particular point. If you think about how the playoffs have gone, you know, I would take it seriously, but my focus would be like, fuck it. Would be like, go for it. So I expect Vrabel pulling out some trick plays sometimes if they get to like 4-1 or 4 and a foot, something like that. Obviously, it's going to depend also on how the game is going, which may determine if they don't do a trick play, what they may call up. So if the running game is going, then you should expect either a run or some type of short pass or some type of play action. If the running game isn't going well, but the passing game has been going well, again, you may do some play action. You may take a shot. So it's going to be on these 4th and shorts, 1 or shorter. 1, how's the game going? I think that's going to determine it. And then 2, I expect a trick play here or there out of New England.
I think something else that's big here is New England's opponents in the playoffs have been teams that had to win one way. Once that one way was taken, like for example, Houston, they win with the defense, but your quarterback keep turning it over, so you're voiding out our effort. So they had no other way to win the game.
Yeah.
That's why we knew it was over.
I like that. Voiding out our effort.
Denver, you had a second string quarterback. He was never a threat. They had no other way to win. Their defense wasn't good enough they had no other way to win. Chargers, they had no other way to win. Seattle can win a bunch of they can win this game a few different ways. They could do it on special teams. They could have a good offensive output. Their defense could win it. How many ways can New England win this game?
Right.
And the ways that I think of New England winning this game is dependent on help from Seattle.
Yeah.
So
I think the more flexible New England is in their planning for this game, the better they'd be suited to at least make it, thinking about the spread, I think to reach that spread, they have to be flexible. They can't, I just don't think they can come in thinking one way.
I think that Vrabel has done a lot with a little. I do not think their personnel is that great. I think Seattle's players, their roster is way better. And I think that Vrabel has just coached this team masterfully. I mean, they're an overachieving team. They're not a scary team to me. Like, I would have welcomed the opportunity to go back to Foxborough to try to get to the Super Bowl. I would not have been concerned about going there as a Bills fan. So I would think New England.
Defense, Guru.
Say it again.
I think it's their defense. But for their defense,
how good is their defense? And again, I hate to always be Homer here, but I can't get the second half of the Buffalo New England game out of my head. We don't have spectacular offensive weapons, and we went through them like a hot knife through butter for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, I've seen other teams do that. I've seen what's my man in Michael Penix? I've seen Michael Penix do it. I've seen Baker Mayfield do it. And they just were the better team, and New England held on, and they made plays when they needed to. But I'm trying to find everything I can to say, hey, New England could win this game based on if they do this. But I can only finish that statement with New England could win this game if they do this and Seattle doesn't do this.
Well, I hear your point, and then I also have to think about it, the conference that they were in. So some of those numbers can be padded. All right, yeah, I take that back.
I mean, think about it. You play the Jets and the Dolphins twice. That's 4 games, okay?
Oh
They
God.
play your division, G, in Atlanta. Your whole entire division played them tough. Your entire division played them tough, but they were able to eke that out. And I don't remember what the rest of their. Oh, they played Cincinnati. I don't remember if they played everybody in that. They did play everybody in that division. And Baltimore gave a game away against them late. They didn't overwhelm a lot of people this year. And you don't have,
Yeah,
win to win, you only have to win by 1 point. You don't have to overwhelm everybody. But
do that.
typically, when we see teams that are 14-3 and 13-4 and 12-5, they pretty much overwhelm a majority of their opponents. So we're going to see the rubber is about to hit the road. I'm actually really excited to watch this game because I want to see what's going to happen. I want to see once they see how this game is going, both sides, how are they going to adjust to it? And especially if Seattle gets up on New England, show me, Vrabel. Show me how tough, how bad you are as a coach. Show me. Because I know he's tough as nails, and he's going to always have a tough team. But now you got to do more than just physical because this team is bodying you. So how are you going to
I
get
just know they crushed Carolina.
New England did?
Yeah,
It was
but you're
tough,
right.
man.
The NFC South played them pretty close, which is kind of odd because we tend to be the worst.
No disrespect, but
But it's the
my
truth.
point. you
It's
know.
the
So
truth. The South tends to
anyway,
be the worst.
let's get into our predictions. I think we've done a really thorough job of breaking this down. Some really good insight from you guys on both of these teams, the keys to the game, and what needs to be done. Let's get into our predictions, fellas. G, give me your winner. If you want to give a final score, want to give an MVP, all that good stuff, defining moments. And I want you to, and I'll come back to it if I have to. I want you to finish this sentence. If I am wrong about my prediction, it's because X happened.
Okay, got you, bro. So I believe Seattle's going to win 35-10. I don't know who the MVP is going to be because I don't know. I honestly don't know how this is going to play out. Whether or not New England, even though their road is a little easier, that doesn't mean that they won't just show up just from emotions perspective. So I don't know who the MVP is going to be. 35-10 Seattle though. And if I'm wrong, that's because New England studied how the 49ers beat Seattle and they replicated it.
Okay. Big dude. What you
Uh,
got?
I think in looking at the game, there'll be good matchups. I think the first quarter will go by like most other first quarters. I don't think much will happen right away, but I think that Seattle will pick it up. Seattle will continue to be methodical as they are, start gaining more yards. The edge rushers start getting to the quarterbacks. They start shutting down the run. I mean, the Patriots, I'm sure, will get some plays, but I just think on the edges and on the edges all the way to the outside, in the quarterback situation, a more mature quarterback in the really rough defense that Seattle has overall. I think it gives Seattle a 31-17 game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
31-17.
I say 31-17 because I think New England will try to make a comeback, but it'll be too late. That's why I say 31-17. So the game won't sound as close as it is. That's for me. I think New England will do their best to stay in that particular game. And if my prediction doesn't become true, then the 23-year-old quarterback, Drake May, and another unknown person that will remain unknown another year, I think their rookie left tackle, both Drake May and that rookie left tackle, will have played the games of their lives.
Rookie left tackle scares me to death for a quarterback in a Super Bowl. Oh wow! And my wow reaction to you guys is because I don't hear too many people picking blowouts in this game. That's why I'm like, wow. But I am also picking a blowout in this game. I got Seattle 34-13. I got Devin Witherspoon, the DB, as the MVP. I think he's going to get Drake for a pick sixer. And I think he's going to lock down and do his thing. He might even get another turnover somehow, a sack or something like that coming off the corner, blitzing. Defining moment for me, I think New England's going to do something, a fourth down attempt that they shouldn't go for, or some gadgety play, and it's going to get them in trouble. It's going to possibly be a nail in a coffin type of play. And I think that's going to be a defining moment in this game, and we'll know it when we see it. If my prediction is wrong, it'll be because Sam Darnold basically turned the ball over, couldn't avoid the pass rush. And I guess you could say it's because New England got to Sam Darnold, however way you want to phrase it. I think the game is in Sam Darnold's hands. I think he's got the defense. He's got the special teams. He's got the weapons on offense. And when they hand him the ball that day, the coaches need to the last message needs to be, Sam, protect this like it's your baby. If you have kids, protect this like this is your kid. And if he does that, I think they'll be fine. So anything else that came to mind? Everybody's comfortable in their predictions. Any other X factors to support your predictions, or we think we're good? That we'll have plenty of time to talk on Sunday.
I think I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah, same here.
All right. So thank you again for joining us on Chasing Rings. Continue to stick with us, to subscribe and follow on all the major streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and other platforms. And we will see you on Super Bowl Sunday. See you later.
Okay.